your transformation and your process, not only is it extreme, but because it was so extreme, it shows that there's this much deeper drive behind what you do. Can you talk to me about that deeper drive?
Yeah, man, I didn't really think it was that extreme, to be honest, until my coach Wes shared it and was like, out of all the thousands of people who are on his program, very few achieved that kind of result. And I had started to reflect on that, and I didn't really think very much of it. And I still don't think very much of it, to be honest with you, because if you're given the guidance by somebody like that, or if you're following, for example, 75 Hard, I don't know if you know that program.
I did it for a year. Loved it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's nothing short of a miracle that we have guys like that guiding us. I still consider myself part of the masses, you know. I mean, it's like you're meant to exceed their expectations. So just the fact that somebody on that level is in direct contact with you, or even the fact that you can log into the First Form app and get your macros, I don't understand why you wouldn't get results. It just baffles me. And it's something I continue to struggle with every day. It might be a lack of compassion. I've had that issue in the past, you know, with friends and relationships telling me that I don't have enough compassion for their struggles. But what is the struggle? That you can't stop yourself from snacking? Is that really what it is? I just don't understand it. So, but ultimately the drive behind it for me was that I decided to change sector, and I used to work in marketing. So I sold my business and was like, I'm just going to go into health and fitness. So I didn't really have a choice, you know? And that's something Andy Frisella talks about all the time, the zero options mentality.
Exactly.
That's literally it. I mean, it's simple. I guess it's not easy, but it's simple.
Exactly. It's not easy, but it's simple. So you said you changed sectors. You went from the marketing into the health and fitness. And then actually, before we do that, I want to talk about the transformation. When you started this, did you have the mindset that, okay, because I went through 75 Hard. You mentioned that process. I went through 75 Hard. I did the full Live Hard program, the full year.
Wow.
It radically changed my life. The person I was when I started and the person I came out as, completely different. It has been so helpful. So going through the program you did when you started, did you have the mentality that, okay, you said you left zero options. So it was like, I am going to get this result no matter what. How confident, how certain were you in that end result?
Well, when I went through 75 Hard, I actually came out worse in terms of my body, because I didn't know how to do the diet. So I was just like, I'm not going to eat any junk food. And then I just ate a whole bunch of rice, and I was supposed to cut. So I ended up gaining, like, I don't know what it was in pounds. It was like something like 15 kilos.
Wow.
Which I was at already at 70 kilos. So I came out just fat, basically, out of 75 Hard with a much bigger gut. And that transformation photo is me at the end of 75 Hard. And I was like, why do I have a gut? Like, I don't understand it. So listening back to the podcast, Andy Frisella was like, get yourself a nutritionist. And I know that on Wes's program, he offers nutrition. So I hit him up and I asked him, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to give you the macros, just follow them. I checked out other people who followed his macro guidance, and it was like, yeah, well, if you just follow the macros, it's a calorie deficit, and you're just going to lose the fat. So it was literally, again, that simple. And I was like, okay, I'm just not going to question anything. Be as coachable as possible, be the client you wish you had.
Yeah.
And just follow instructions. So I didn't really understand much about anything. And I guess those are the kind of people who get results, right? When you don't really know what you're doing and you just follow instructions.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Just, eyes shut and go through the fire.
And you just show up and you're like, I'm going to do whatever they say. I'm going to do. I'm not going to question. I'm not going to try and cheat my way out of it. I'm just going to show up and do it. That was the mentality?
Yeah, I think I'm simplifying it too much, because I'm trying to find some compassion in my heart right now. but it's not easy to, not snack. I get it. And at the end of the day, I get it. There were times where I was like, just feeling like I want to eat the fast food and whatever, and I want to have like some snacks. But
Yeah.
what do you want more? Do you want the results, or do you want to have like a moment of pleasure in your mouth of like chocolate or whatever?
Yeah. That's actually what I
That's
was
what it
going
comes
to
down to. And
ask.
it's like, no, I want the results.
Exactly. That's what I was going to ask is I think the reason why you struggle to have that compassion, and I relate to that, by the way. I've always been if
Yeah.
I'm going to do something, I'm going to put my back against the wall and I'm just going to fucking go. And like
Yeah.
that's been my life path. And so, I think the reason, speaking from experience, what my reason's been, is I think the reason for it might be for you as well, why you lack compassion in this is because when you do something, you do that same. You say, okay, I'm going to give myself no other options. Has to work. This is it. And so other people, most people don't, because you know this, that's incredibly uncomfortable, right? That is ridiculously uncomfortable. It's stressful. It's painful. But in the end, like people say, what kind of pain do you want more, right? Pain of regret or pain of discipline? But it's one thing to say
Exactly.
it, it's another to experience it. And I think a lot of people don't put themselves in a position. How do I say this? A lot of people or soften the blow for themselves so that they don't believe that they are as desperate for the result. They say, okay, I'm just overweight, I'm not obese, or oh, I'm just a few pounds overweight, I'm not 20, or oh, I guess I don't really need this. Just one slice of cake will be fine. They soften whatever that pain is. They don't feel the pain enough to have a strong enough drive. In a lot of people that I talk with, that it always seems to be like one of the core issues. You're giving yourself too much dopamine and not enough pain in order to make the change. In your experience, does that sound right?
Interesting. Yeah, I was definitely really into my vices. So
Mm.
before 75 hard, I smoked a lot of weed and drank alcohol constantly and snacked as well. So a combination of those three things is already enough to kind of like have your mind really foggy and
Mm.
not let yourself experience the pain, as you said. And then
Mm.
I wouldn't sleep without having some kind of like movie running in the background, and
Mm.
just constant, distraction constantly, literally. So as soon as I cut out the vices and like face the void, as I called it was like, wow, I'm actually in a really terrible spot here. Like, I'm not just overweight, like I'm a complete disaster.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's what really got me motivated. But you've got to like face that void, really. And it's just not going to happen with all the distractions we've got available to us. It's amazing
Mm.
how much there is. You can choose from a whole variety of things that will distract your mind. It's so easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick your poison. We have 1,000 different brands for you to choose from.
Oh
Uh,
man, it's amazing, really.
wow. So you did 75 hard. You said you were smoking weed. You're having alcohol, snacking. Um, did you just give all that up cold turkey?
Pretty
Oh, cold
much,
turkey.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Good for you. I am so fucking
Just for
proud.
the program.
Yeah. Interesting. Have you, at this point on the other side, have you brought back any of those habits, or have you kept all
No,
of them off?
absolutely not.
Mm.
No,
Mm.
absolutely not. No, no, no. I could never do that. Now I'm like full-time coaching, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not even
Come
about
on.
me anymore. Like I'm over that stuff. I can't.
Yeah.
I've got people who are like in the position I was in back in January,
Mm-hmm.
struggling and going like, man, I have suicidal thoughts and all that. I was
Mm-hmm.
speaking about that on my story today, and I can fully relate to that too.
Yeah.
So I know it's just those vices, like it's depleting your brain from the dopamine, and then you're left with like this empty tank. So obviously
Mm.
you're gonna have suicidal thoughts. It's not a surprise.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That makes
Yeah, I don't
sense.
know how it was in your experience, but I know that what you do as well, it's hard work, man. It's not easy.
It is. It is. And I have gone through the suicidal thoughts as well. I got to a point where I was minutes away from committing suicide.
Oh
Um,
man, yeah.
yeah, I watched your
And we tend
story
to
this morning.
perform the
That
best
was,
as well. The people who are like
yeah,
have been that close, we tend to then appreciate life so much more.
yeah, yeah. One of the actually, since you brought this up, I was gonna give you an option to go in here and not touch it if you didn't want. But since you brought it up, one of the things I was gonna say is when I see the people who are the most grateful for life. The people who wake up every day with a smile on their face, who are like, man, I am just stoked. Like, they're excitable, they're enjoying life, even if shit happens, and shit happens. But the people who are excited and are ready to take on life, those are usually the people who have seen the darkest side of life and they've lived through it. And watching your content for the last couple months, like, that has been something that has jumped out at me. And I was going to give you an opportunity to go into that if you wanted, but you brought it up anyway. So from the outside, I want to say I appreciate that so much. I appreciate the struggle that you went through. I appreciate that you're on the other side, and the excitement and the energy that you have. It is contagious, and it also shows that, like, regardless of how dark and how depressing and how hard your time is in the moment, if you make it through that, going on the outside, on the other side, things can get so much better. It's not always going to be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think my life was that bad, to be honest. That's the crazy part. I think I was
Yeah.
just an ungrateful person, and it's like I don't want to keep on going on about my coach West, but he was like for those who don't know his story, like, he was in prison for 10 years, and
Mm.
that's why he's probably doing that well, is because just imagine being in solitary confinement, man. I haven't been to prison or jail or anything like that. So it's like, I feel like I have nothing to complain about. As soon as I saw his content, I was like, wow, I don't know if I would last a week, literally, like, not
Mm.
just because I'm a weak person physically, but because the mental toll it takes on you. I don't know if I would have that. And here's somebody who came out of a 10-year sentence, and then is killing it at life. Like, I literally have no excuses left. And in some of
Come
his
on.
videos, some people have seen them, like, from back in the day. He talks about people who don't even have shelter. So he was in solitary confinement, being grateful in solitary confinement. It's like, man, I really can't complain about my life now. Like, I really can't. And the law of exposure just means that the fact that you're aware of this, you just can't go back
Yeah.
now. Now you
Yeah.
know that if you're sitting at home and you're somewhere in, like, I don't know, in Europe or in the US, and you have, like, your little apartment, and maybe your job isn't going that well, and your girlfriend broke up with
Mm.
you, it's like, that's the most common shit ever. It's
Yep.
not a good reason
Yep.
for you to be, like, considering throwing your life away. That's ridiculous. It's like literally what the system wants you to think. But meanwhile, there's people in other countries, because I've traveled quite a lot, who are just living such a miserable life. And in fact, they're some of the most grateful people ever. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen people who don't have shoes, who are just have, like, a beautiful smile and such good energy. So
Yeah.
it's certainly an interesting place, man, that we live in. That's all I can say,
It is.
because I
It
can
really
ramble about
is.
this for a long time.
I believe it. The Kyle, he's one of the favorite people that I reference. Kyle of Superhuman Fathers is a friend of
Yeah, I
mine,
love
and
him.
oh my
Oh
God,
yeah,
he
that's
is.
amazing, man.
Oh, yeah. So I do some business stuff with him, and he is phenomenal.
Oh, that's
Absolutely phenomenal.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. And so one of the things that he said recently, on this show that we had him on is, and this completely, it makes so much sense, but completely changed my mindset. He was, if you want a comfortable life, you have to put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable. It's he called it the law of ambient temperature. If you're in a hot shower, when you get out, you're comfortable, and then when you get out, you're cold and you're shivering. But if you are in a cold shower, when you get out of that situation, you are warm, and it's like, okay, this is normal. It's the same thing in life. If you want a comfortable life, you have to put yourself intentionally through the shit, so that when the rest of everyday life, it's like, oh, this actually isn't that bad. I've been through worse. And when real shit comes down, then it's like, cool, I've been training for this. But if you try and make yourself comfortable, then every little bump in the road is going to feel like the end of the world, because you're striving, and that's your comfort is your normal level. It's counterintuitive, but when you think about it, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, that's really cool that you're connected with him, because it was actually his uh, testimonial video that got me to sign up to Wes's program, because I really related to Kyle and his brand and everything. And I
Oh,
know the story you're talking about. I saw it, and I was there when he decided to
come
start taking
on.
cold showers showers as well. I remember that. That was amazing.
That's incredible. That's just after this podcast, we'll talk a little bit about Kyle. He's got some great things coming up. I am fighting to get him onto this show. One of these goddamn days, he will come on here.
I hope
But
so.
he,
Yeah, definitely. I love his story and what
mm,
his family is doing is just
oh my
incredible.
god,
It's so inspiring.
so inspiring. Oh, he is such a. Well, have you met him in person? We're gonna go on a little Kyle rant here.
No,
He.
no, I
This
wish.
is. Oh, so this is so interesting. I met him in person for the first time. Actually, the time I actually met him, April.
Wow.
And you know how, so you talk about intuition a lot in your content, and I was going to ask about that. And I guess we'll use this as a segue, but Kyle has this way about himself where when you're connecting with him, something inside, there's this energy, this bubbling, this fire that just comes up. And when I was talking to him, I spent probably 15, 20 minutes talking with him and his wife. And just that conversation, something happened here. And that
Wow.
20-minute conversation changed my life. He has this principle of never, how many things do you say never again to or always, just 100% no matter what. That I've started to apply. But then just talking with him, his whole thing is, yeah, we help people get ripped, but really we help them find that fire. And that, when I'm excited for you to meet him in person, because that fire is, there's something about that. And that transitions into this intuition. You talk about intuition. What got you onto this, the importance of intuition? Why that?
Because the times I didn't listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
it just like ruined the situation I was going
Mm,
for. So a lot of things are counterproductive, like we're saying, and oftentimes your gut feeling will tell you to go for something that feels counterintuitive. It's like, for example, what kind of example can I give you? Like, yeah, go and approach this new client or something, or go and hit up Kyle on Instagram. That was one of my
mm-hmm.
things, and it's like, oh well, he's not gonna reply. You know, he's like a huge brand and busy and whatever, and then, for example, I might have seen a story of him replying to somebody else, and I've been like, well, I should have just written to him, you know, and the moment
Yeah.
is just gone forever. So I mean, this isn't a very good example, to be honest, but just because we were talking about it, and I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
end up writing to him, and he did end up explaining a little bit about the program to me, and I was like, okay, you convinced me, I'm signing up to West's program. So just that
Amazing.
tiny conversation, which was like a four message back and forth on Instagram, was what pushed me over the edge to then
Mm.
go like, okay, I'm signing up, I'm gonna make this change. And I was like, if I remember correctly, writing to him in tears, like just like on my phone, like crying and like I don't know what's going on, you know. So that whole thing just completely changed the course of my entire life, you know. Whereas I could still be there doubting, you know, because I didn't speak to him, and then I didn't sign up to the program because I didn't sign up to the program, still in my old habits, blah, blah, blah. So all
Mm.
these, one tiny action leads to another. And if it's not going in the right direction, then you can find that 6 months down the line, your life is like just completely down the gutter, you know?
Mm.
And I've learned that lesson the hard way because of the chances I didn't take, and then
Mm.
realized later on how easy it would have been to just jump into that, take the leap, you know?
Mm. Just do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. What?
Especially in business, man, especially in business, it's usually something with clients that it's like scary to approach them, or, you know, to come on this podcast even. It's not, it's like, can be a little bit uncomfortable, but in the end, when, like the cold shower too, when you come out, you're going to feel amazing just because you did it.
Mm-hmm. Come on. Come on. What got you to start looking into intuition? So you said whenever you don't follow it, things would go wrong, and when you did follow it, things would start to work out. Was there like a turning point where you started to notice that, like, oh, something big happened, I didn't follow it, and it just went way off course? Was there like some inciting event like that?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but it's probably related to relationships
That's fair.
because, yeah, I
That
think a lot of guys can relate to that. It's like,
I
you know,
very much
you're meant
relate to
to
that.
leave that relationship, man. It might seem like you're never going to find another girl,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then it ends up just getting worse and worse until, you know, it's just completely ruining your life. And eventually, you know, in your heart, it's going to end. So just end
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
sooner rather than later. And that's
Yeah.
actually happened with the mother of my child right now. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
we've separated. My son is like 12 days old, and we separated at birth when he was born because we're just not going down the same path. Like we met as smoking buddies. We weren't together for that long, and she ended up getting pregnant. And it just the base of the relationship, and this is something I learned from Kyle too, is not founded on solid principles. It's based on vices, on escapism,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that I'm trying to move away from that and she's not means that this isn't going to work. It's just not, and I don't want my son to end up paying the price for me not taking that jump and going like, look, this isn't going to work. Let's fix this sooner rather than later. That's my gut feeling, you know.
Yeah. That I so much respect, man. That is, I can't imagine that that's an easy call to make, um, especially mother of your child. Like I can't imagine that's an easy call to make.
I mean, it feels so comfortable to just follow my intuition now. I
Mm,
know it must feel like that for everybody else too. You just feel the sense of relief in your soul,
mm, mm,
where you're like, okay, I know this feels right. I just feel in my stomach, literally like physiologically, I can feel that tension go away because I've made the right decision. At the end of the day, when you don't, again, like face the void, don't escape through movies and series and sitting in front of the TV until you're like completely exhausted. Just shut your eyes and just connect with your gut. This is like something Dr. Cassie Huckabee talks about. I don't know if you know her.
I do,
She's an
yeah.
awesome, yeah, like your life is your medicine. There's
Mm,
another, this is a whole nother rabbit hole, but it's like, you can just feel it in your gut that you're
mm,
doing the right thing. And that's much easier than trying to fight that, in my opinion.
mm. What do you think intuition is?
Yeah, man, I think it's some kind of, who knows, to be honest. I have to stick to the I don't know. It must be something divine. I don't even
Mm,
know what I
mm,
believe in terms of like religion and God and all of that. That's like
mm,
everybody's, our common question that we all have. We don't know what it is. We'll look up to the sky, and I guess it might be something that's hidden from us, or not. I just don't know. But there's definitely something interesting going on there. I wish I had a straight answer, but it's crazy. Like you said, when you connect with another human being, I think it's the same kind of thing we're tapping into there. It's a similar thing we're tapping into to intuition. When you like look
mm,
at a friend's eyes, or you're listening to your gut feeling, or you're completing a workout, or all of those things, I think they come from the same source.
mm.
What do you
That
think?
I very much relate to what you're saying. When it comes to because I'll answer the question after I explain this. When it comes to intuition and relationships, I completely relate. I have intuition divided kind of into like three categories. One is I have I've always so you grew up spiritual. I've watched some of like Catholic. I've watched some of the content, and I grew up. We were Catholic. I was baptized in the Catholic faith. I also went to like super Protestant Baptist stuff. I've also been like charismatic, passing out, speaking in tongues, like the whole shit. Like you name
Oh
it.
yeah.
Oh yeah, healings. Like you name it. I've seen some wacky shit. And so I have since I was a kid. I used to make pray to God, and I would say, God, I got really bad bloody noses. I have a blood disorder, and so I would bleed for like 3 hours at a time as a
Wow.
kid. Yeah, and like lots of medical stuff because of that. And so I'd be like, God, if I started to get one on, and say, God, can you please and thank you for taking away this bloody nose, and it would stop. And I learned, oh, this is interesting, and this is going to tie into the intuition. So I went from there to started pray for other shit, right?
Hmm.
And then sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. Like I've seen legs grow and some crazy stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is very interesting. And then I started to get this sense, this I call it intuition, but this sense, this feeling, because you just got around it so much, around whatever these healings are, around whatever this energy is, whatever that is. I got this feeling, and I made a rule with myself when I was probably 12 years old, and I've never shared this publicly, but I made a rule that no matter what happened in my life, I would always follow that intuition, with one exception. I have followed that with one exception. The only exception was in a relationship. Like you talk about, I had this sense before I got together with this girl, probably like 5 years ago. I had this sense, or I had that intuition come up and it said, "You don't enter this relationship." And I said, "Screw that! I'm gonna do it." And it was incredible. She was a great girl. We were the worst for each other. We brought out the worst in each other. 3 years later, it was an absolute mess, and like it became a whole thing. So I completely relate, especially in the relationship side. I think intuition is, personally, I think part of it is just all of your subconscious uh, making or connecting patterns from all of your experiences and your senses in your life thus far, and things you've heard, things you've gathered from other people. It's making these connections faster than your brain can, because your brain can only consciously focus on whatever goal-oriented behavior or goal-oriented decision you have in front of you. So intuition, I think, if you say, okay, I am going to try and lose 20 pounds, then, or if I'm going to try and go from point A to point B, your brain is focused on looking at this. And anything that's not looking at this, your subconscious is going to run. And I think your subconscious takes all of your experience, everything, and that's part of it. You have this gut feeling, but you don't know why, because you're focused on A. But I also think, like I said, with the spiritual side, I think there's some sort of spiritual something. I don't know what that is, but I have seen too much to not think that there's something there.
Definitely, man, because children will have intuition too, and they don't have that much
Yeah.
experience. So like
Yeah.
maybe, 10, 11 year olds, like you were saying, will have this inherent wisdom or something that comes from somewhere, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly right. Do you still, you said you're unsure of what you believe spiritually at this point. Is that right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, in words, yeah. If I had to put it in words, yeah. But in my head, like my feelings are pretty strong.
Mm. What do you,
I'm curious when I
mm,
look up into the sky and things like that. I'm okay with not knowing. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with.
mhm.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories going around, people just trying to like put things in a box, and it's like, well, just look at the sky. How can you possibly know what that is? You just don't know, and that's fine. Just don't know. Look at it in like a child's curiosity with wonder, and go like, wow, that's just so beautiful. I don't know what it is, but it's amazing. And that's
Mm.
what I do with the sunrise every morning. That's why I was like, like, what is this place we live in? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, the story this morning was, I was like, man, that's beautiful. It's phenomenal. Do you think, have you always been like that, or is that something that you've learned through experience, or through the, like, a suicide attempt that we had talked about earlier?
I think it's more to do with just consuming conspiracy theory content. That's probably the best way to put it.
It's
And going
great.
through a bunch of theories and just being really tired with all these theories that
Mm,
always end up not making sense. One way or another, something will just be off. Whether
mhm.
it's I don't know what to give you as an example. Something like um, flat Earth, for example, has so many
Mhm.
flaws in it. That theory, but then the opposite side of the coin also has flaws. And then
Yep.
recently with the Corona stuff, like both
Mm-hmm.
both extremities have their issues. So not I
Mm,
don't believe either of I don't just don't believe anything anymore. And it's like, well,
mm,
it's not that I don't believe, I just don't know. So I'm just going to
mm.
stick with the fact that I don't know. And that kind of it's such a relief, because you don't need to know. No one is pressuring you. Just stick to your program, and that's what really matters. In the
Yeah.
end, it doesn't matter what your brain like labels something as. That's so
Right.
irrelevant. It's like a waste of time.
Right. Right. So with that, it doesn't matter. And focusing on what matters, all these, okay, your brain's going to label all of this shit. That doesn't matter. What matters is stick to your program, do your routine. I want to talk about your routine. What does your current routine look like?
Just wake up, do some kind of physical movement, At the moment, it's push-ups, but that's probably going to change.
Mm,
And then consume positive content in the form of books, and share that with the world.
mm,
And then get my workouts in because I'm still not at my physical level where I want to be.
mm.
And then do the same, but apply it to business. So try and find clients, try and at the moment, I'm trying to figure out like admin stuff here in Spain. I'm not in the US, by the way. I'm
Mhm.
in Spain, and it's like we really. I don't know what the situation is like in the US, but over here, basically, if you want to be anything other than an employee, they're making it really difficult. So the tax rate for freelancers is so high. The bureaucracy is insane. The path is like going through a thick jungle. You know, the paperwork needed for all these things is like so incredibly overwhelming for me, at least. That it's just a battle every day at the moment to just get my stuff in order. And I think I'm quite far down the line because I've already had a business and I've had employees. I know there's people who are just starting, and it must just feel like impossible.
Mm.
So that feels like it's going to be a constant battle to just stay focused in that aspect. So, and that already just consumes like most of the day, to be honest. Then at the very end, it'll be like 10 p.m. and it's time to eat the final meal and just repeat it the next day.
Okay. Damn. What are some of the non-negotiable habits that you have?
Um, Definitely the physical movement. I've gone through some light injuries, some back pain, and then I've still just done what I could. Some knee issues and a couple of things like that, and I haven't really missed a day. And also the
Mm.
meals, and also consuming positive content. And that's really all we need, to be
That's
honest.
great.
That's really
Yeah, that's
everything. So
great.
it's like,
It's great when your daily habits line up with your non-negotiables. That is
yeah.
phenomenal. Do with your mentality of I'm just gonna get it done. Did you and you went through like the 75 hard, you went through Wes's program. Did you go through it with like a group of other people, or was it like just you doing it yourself?
No, in fact, my people were completely against it. So I had people
Fuck yeah.
showing up every day. It felt like a video game where, somebody will like jump in. You're like, I don't know if you remember, for example, Crash Bandicoot or something like that. Like those
I
games where
do.
you're like running down a path, and then someone will just like come in your way, and you need to dodge that. So it'll be like, my mom comes into my way, just like stops there. Hey, pay attention to me. I'm sick, and then it's like I've got to jump over that. And then I had recently the relationship issue,
Yep.
and then I've got my old friends who don't want to change their habits and don't like the
Mm.
fact that I did. And it
Hmm.
was just like dodging, all these things. So it wasn't like I had any support at all. No, I spent a
Mm.
lot of time on my own. And I still do, to be honest, because
Hmm.
I'm in Spain, and the amount of exposure I have to people my age who aren't like, in their early 20s, like traveling carelessly is pretty limited. Most people will
Yeah.
have stable families and will be like in the countryside, so it's a little bit different here. If I was in the US, I'd probably, come to like, for example, the First Form headquarters and like connect with
Hmm.
people, but that's
Hmm.
not an option. So I do spend a lot of time just doing my shit on my own.
Mm. That
Unfortunately, yeah.
so that's what I was gonna say is that something that you uh value, or is that something I imagine it's both something you value and something that you wish you didn't have to do, like you wish you had your. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely. I mean, if business was going the way I want it to go, or let's say once business goes the way I want it to go, I'll definitely be taking regular flights out to the US because I really appreciate what the US as a country is based on, the whole
Mm.
philosophy of what Andrew Frisella preaches, like it's the last place on earth. I can tell you that as a fact, like you guys who are listening from the US, you really have to just like preserve that, because over here, the things that he speaks about on Real AF are already happening. Like I have
Mm.
somebody staying in one of my properties who doesn't want to leave, and because she's a girl, a woman, she has more rights and she doesn't have to pay rent, and she still is protected by the police, so can just stay she can be a squatter legally, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything about that. That's what he was talking about on Real AF. He was like, ask people in Venezuela, ask people in Europe. Like, I'm one of those people. I can tell you that's already happening here, you know. And if I and listen to this, man, this is unbelievable. But if I decide to stop paying her electricity bill, I can go to jail. So she's in my house
Wait,
living for
what?
free, and I have to pay her electricity bill because she's a woman.
What?
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's like
I hear the
I just
words. I
want him
don't
to do.
understand. Oh my God.
There's this law which is the some kind of like minority law, and
Uh-huh.
you might have caught in my story that it was yesterday. I said I went to a tax advisor and I'm like trying to get this guy to help me out, and he was just like, "It's just the law. It's just the law." And it's like, man, do you not understand what's going on? Like, help me
Yeah.
out. Like, this isn't fair. Come on, like, wake up, dude. Like, wake up. What
Right.
are you doing? I just paid you to help me out, and you're just going like, "It's the law. It's the law." So I left that meeting with that lawyer slash tax advisor so frustrated. I need to go to the beach in the morning and watch that sunrise. Otherwise, this entire thing is just going to consume me, and it would be much
Mm-hmm.
easier to just go and drink all of that away, you know? So
That
yeah, I don't want to get
absolutely.
too tinfoil hatty, but yeah, things aren't going very well here in Europe.
That makes sense. I hope you're able to come out to the U.S.
I would love to.
Consistently and or move out here. Then,
Oh man, I would love that so much because I've been there before. I've been to the Midwest.
mm,
You know, I love it. I've been to New York too. I've been to
okay,
California, although these
yeah,
days I'm not sure if I'll go. No offense to people. Whereabouts are you?
Colorado. I used to live in
Oh
Maine, up by
man.
New York, but I'm in Colorado as of a couple years
Oh
ago.
my God,
Yeah,
man. I haven't been to Colorado, but I've seen stuff and I know one person
it's
from there, and
beautiful.
it's oh my goodness.
It's beautiful. It is. It is everything that you see and more. Um,
Oh,
yeah. And there's a really strong entrepreneur community here, and like remote working community, and like
wow.
people who are driven and who want to achieve shit. It is phenomenal. I absolutely
Wow.
love it here. Yeah. I hope you come out here. Actually, to bring up Kyle again, him and his family lived out here in Colorado for up until I think like maybe a year ago or maybe this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
just really really great people here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And for me, to be honest, it would be nice to be somewhere where the language is just English.
Yeah.
You know?
There's that too. There's that too.
Yeah.
Of the that's very fair. So with all of the stressful shit happening, that's insane, by the way. With all of that and other things that I'm sure that are happening, the relationship, you have a lot of outside stress going on. Is the daily routines that you have, like you said, that's what keeps you sane. That's what allows you to be able to continue to do what you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because first of all, on the most basic level, it just makes the day pass much faster than,
Mm,
for example, just sitting around and smoking weed, which is the other method I had of dealing with all of this. Was
mm,
it just made the day pass so slowly, and felt like, it would never get better, and I was just like wallowing in my misery more and
yeah.
more until it was evening, and then I just start to feel anxious. And when I'm doing this, and you're just, as Wes says, stacking wins, the day just flies past. Like, now it's already 3 p.m. I'm gonna finish, and I've got one more workout, then get the meal in, and then before I know it, it's gonna be time to sleep already.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not even
Come on.
sleeping that much, to be honest. I'm sleeping like 3 hours a night,
Wow.
just because
Is
I love connecting with all the people on my Instagram afterwards. At the end of the day, I'll be writing to people, and it's like, oh damn, it's like 1 in the morning now.
mm, that so this is something that I have been recently learning. I wonder if this is true in your experience as well. I've been recently experiencing. I don't want to say learning yet. Uh, I have for the last maybe 6 months. I put myself in a couple of situations that were I was well out of my league, well out of my comfort zone, and took on a lot of more stress than I typically had up to that point. And so I started like my energy was just drop, because I realized I was spending all of my time focusing on this shit. And
Mm-hmm.
it was probably 2 months ago where I was like, okay, cool. All of that's happening, but I am just going to do one tweak here. I'm going to add one thing that I really enjoy. And every day I'm going to add that one thing. And just by literally adding something to an already stressful schedule and day, I had like double the energy. And all of a sudden, I had plenty of energy to go through all of the rest of the shit that was happening. Has that been your experience as well? And that's why, like, you don't need as much sleep, because you're passionate and you love the parts of what you're doing.
Um, I would say it's more the end goal, because in terms of
Mm,
enjoying what I do, I mean, I enjoy what I do the way you would enjoy a cold shower. It's not
mm,
like it's particularly comfortable. None of it is really, up until the very last moment. Even messaging people at like midnight or 1 in the morning, when you've just spent your entire day grinding, is kind of
mm,
uncomfortable. But then when I spoke to that person I was speaking about this morning in my stories, who was telling me that he's going through suicidal thoughts, just gave me like a burst of energy
mm.
at that hour of the night, when I was like ready to, my eyes were like closing and I was like looking at the phone with like one eye and stuff. And then I was speaking to this guy and I was like, bam, like all of a sudden had all this energy and was like, wow, I'm like, wired right now.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I don't really do anything for that kind of pleasure I used to seek back in last year in January, which the kind of pleasure you get from, eating donuts, for example.
Mm.
I wouldn't, I don't, I mean, when I started bulking, for example, I mentioned donuts. I had one cookie, a big one, and it didn't feel very good. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm about to have this cookie, which is like loaded with fat and carbs. And I ate it and it was gone in like 15 seconds. And I was like, well, that was kind of an anticlimax,
Yep. That was
And
disappointing.
I've just consumed like 20% of my macros. Wasn't worth it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Very relatable. Man, that is very relatable. Do you think that specifically, actually, I'm gonna run with this. I'm gonna run with this example, the cookie example. Would you have had that same, or you didn't have that same reaction actually before you went through these programs, and now you do? That's one of the changes, right?
Definitely. And I do remember Kyle again, because he, in one of his stories, was pointing at some pretty good looking cookies his wife had made and was like, these motherfuckers are in the never again category. And I was like, I know why, because I would have had about 20 of those, because it's
Yes.
like the cookie's gone. Well, I'm just going to have another one and another one
Yep.
and another one. It's like, oh my God, how is my body like digesting all of this?
Right, right. Oh, I completely understand. When I did the 75 hard, I went that first 75 days. I said no, no sugar. That was the big thing. No sugar whatsoever. And I was
Okay.
having ice. I was having ice cream 3 or 4 times a week before that. It was bad. Um, and I was like, cool, zero sugar. And then someone brought me sugar-free ice cream. Some of the chemical shit, and
No.
I know I had to
Yeah.
make that choice. I was like, do I say yes? And if I say yes, what will happen? And I realized if I said yeah and I took that ice cream, I would be going to the store 3 times a week and grabbing that. And I was like, that is not in the spirit. It is okay in the law, in like the wording of what I said, no sugar, but it's not in honor of the spirit of no sugar. And so about a week in, I changed it to no sugar and no artificial sugar. 75 days. And that actually made it easier. The whole never again, always never again, that actually made it so much easier. Instead of being like, oh, can I have this? I think I might be able to. It was like, no, like I already decided, no, it's done. What else do we have?
Yeah.
What
No
else? Moving on.
negotiation.
Exactly. There's no back and forth, no negotiation. What are some of the no negotiation things that you have?
No, brain altering substances apart from
Oh,
coffee, which
mm-hmm.
I would love to get off it. And to be honest, I'll have like a cup in the morning, which these days I don't even finish that much. To be honest, I'll have like maybe a third of it or something, or like half, and then I realize I'm busy like just writing to people on my phone that I didn't finish the coffee, and it's like
Mm.
just got cold, and I just won't have it. Whereas in the past I would just down it anyway, even although it's
Yeah.
kind of like cold and disgusting.
Yep. Yep.
But coffee went with cigarettes for me and
Mm.
joints, so just coffee on its own without the milk too is just purely for the caffeine, which I don't really need anymore. So my intuition, you can see I'm like justifying myself here. My intuition is pulling me towards no coffee either, no caffeine, but I'm still a little bit afraid to take that leap. But I would
Yeah.
like to be able to say I don't use any brain altering substances.
Mm.
So no drugs, no nicotine, no
Mm-hmm.
caffeine, none of that.
Mm. You and I both on the caffeine. I've been wanting to take that step, and something inside me says it's time to take that step, and I have been very hesitant. After this podcast, let's connect. We can take that step together and keep each other accountable to that. Um, it's really tough, and yeah, that's one of the few habits that I have found very, very hard to give up.
Do you
Coffee
consume
with
a lot of
Klingman,
coffee?
literally the name of the podcast. Like it's been
Oh yeah.
it's literally, and I worked as a
Well, it
barista
could be
for like,
decaffeinated, you know.
this is true. This is true. I like that. That's true. I was a barista for like 8 years or 7 years. So like I've grown up with this shit pretty much. But yeah, let's connect after. We can work together on that. So no brain altering
Yeah,
substances. Do you have other
yeah.
non-negotiables for you?
Um, I'm sure I do, but I have so many that I can't even keep track. Like I don't take warm showers, for example. I don't use music while I'm working out. All of
Mm,
those stuff is like I don't negotiate. It's just a bunch of stuff that I accumulated over the years trying to cure myself way before I did 75 hard. I accumulated these habits which didn't really help because if you're not doing it fully, then you can have a bunch of small, good habits which like people, for example, I used to be vegan, but if you're vegan and but then you're not working out and you don't have the whole package, then it's not really going to work. But some stuff stuck with me. I'm not
mm,
vegan anymore, but
mhm,
um yeah, a bunch of the stuff like still stuck with me, so I don't really tend to consume like artificial food, you know, any like alternatives. I try to
mhm,
eat like as farmer as possible,
mhm,
which is another reason why I wanted to be in the US. I would love to just like eat my own food,
mhm.
but farming over here is pretty much illegal at this point. You can't even have
What?
chicken, to be honest.
Uh, uh, this is my ignorance showing, and I'm fine with that. I am very confused by that statement. Why?
Yeah, raw milk is illegal here. It's
Why?
literally illegal. Well, I guess it's because it's really good for you.
That's a terrible answer. What? What in the world? I uh, um
Yeah, there's a farm, one single farm left in the entirety of Spain that can sell raw milk, and I'm not even sure it's entirely raw. It definitely doesn't look the way some of the milk you guys have out there does.
I'm very confused by that. This conversation is gonna have me Googling a lot today. I'm I don't understand that. Okay. Um, bizarre.
I
One
might
of
be
the
wrong. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty certain. I mean, if somebody hears this and they want to hit me up with their sources, I know that you can find, people who live in the countryside who will sell you raw milk illegally and
it's
whatever.
like
I'm
the
not talking about that. I'm
under
talking
the
about like
table
you can.
black market.
Yeah, I know that in
Wow.
Germany, for example, they have like raw milk vending machines, but here in Spain, at least, I know that it's not that easy to get, and I'm pretty sure it's not legal either. I'm like 99% sure.
Yeah. I okay. I am so intrigued. Anyone watching and listening, y'all hit us up in the comments wherever you're watching and listening.
Yeah,
Let
give me
us
your
know.
raw
Yeah,
milk source, please.
exactly. If you got a guy, you got a little under the table. Let's find them. Um, So you said no music while working out, no warm showers. Is that out of a I'm gonna put myself in the ambient temperature rule, like I'm gonna put myself and do stuff that's uncomfortable, or is that for some other reason?
No, it was because I went to a Wim Hof seminar, and I did the ice bath and was like, okay, I got used to it now. And then
Mm,
as soon as you get used to taking cold showers, it's pretty weird to go back to just, having like a hot shower. It made me feel a little bit unclean. It was just like, I feel like
interesting.
I'm not getting the same kind of like this internal cleanse,
Mm,
you know?
totally.
And I felt it also compensated for smoking weed. I was like, well, if I take cold showers, then it's not that bad.
Gotcha.
So I've been on the
Interesting.
cold shower thing for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. The what about the no music while working out? That one, I've tried that. It makes working out for me like 10 times harder. So I'm intrigued what your reasoning is.
Well, it started with not having headphones and
Solid. Okay.
having having to just like look for playlists and waste a bunch of time. I
Mm,
realized how much time I'm wasting in between sets,
mm-hmm.
just playing music and stuff like that. So that was like way back as well. It must be like at least 10 years or more that I don't work out with music, just because it's just one worry less.
Mm,
Just take it off the list. You don't need to worry about it.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Just
know
one
if it'll
less
be
thing.
easier to work out. Most gyms have like music, but I I just tend to like work by the countdown timer. So I'll just I'll rest for a minute or 30 seconds or whatever the set requires, and for that reason, there's no need to kind of. I'll see people like sit down and just spend like 3 minutes in between sets. Like, well, I guess you're not getting the same kind of effect anyway. Your
Yeah.
muscles shouldn't recover that much. I'm not so sure about this theory, but I guess you're not supposed to be like recovering that much. If you're doing a set of five, then it's a set of five. It's not like a set of one and then rest for 3 minutes and have your muscle like recover fully.
Mm-hmm. Right, because you want to make sure I imagine you want to make sure you're tearing it, and tearing it well, and it's always those last few sets that count. So the more rest you give, yes, you can lift higher weight, but then I imagine the tear is less, and that's just a guess. Anyone in the comments, let us know if we're right or wrong about this. But yeah,
Yeah, man.
man,
So I was gonna ask you a
yeah.
question and I forgot about it. It's gone. It's gone. It was related to the thing we were just talking about
Hmm.
previously.
To the
Um,
music, to the cold showers. Um,
Never mind. It might come
oh,
back again.
okay, cool, cool. Um, is there something that actually, yeah, I've had a couple guests come on here, and we've reached like over 20,000 people with some of the clips and stuff that gets posted out. If that were, and there's always no guarantee, but if that were to happen with you, is there something you would like people to know? Something you would, a message, something you'd like people to hear and to fully grasp?
Oh man, I immediately want to say just follow your gut. I think that's so
Mm,
important. I think if everybody followed their gut, we wouldn't be in this situation. Again, referring to what's going on here in Europe, because I guess in the US, it'd still be a little bit comfortable, but here it's like undeniable that things aren't going well. Everybody knows it. Everybody can feel it. There's just this tension in the air, and people are trying to escape it via vices. There's a big smoking culture here. Everybody smokes basically, um, and people are escaping this reality. It's so undeniable that the system is like ruining us, especially freelancers, but also now companies and everyone who's not part of this bubble of people who are up there is just getting absolutely ruined. And with the new squatters law as well, and now we've got like LGBT stuff coming in too. It's just getting out of control. It's undeniable. Um, so if people were to follow their gut and just speak up, that's what they
mm,
should do. Because the other day as well, I was at the bank and they're just applying charges to my account left, right, and center, illegal ones. And it wasn't until I went there and was yelling at the branch that they removed them from my account. I was like, no, sir, don't worry, we'll refund them. Like, what do you mean you're going to refund them? Just for me or for like everybody who's standing here as well? Because this is literally criminal. And you guys know that nobody's going to hold you accountable. That's why you're doing it. And it's like, I'm not speaking to the actual employees, but they're so robotic and soulless that they don't even care. They just want their salary and they just want to go home and then probably do what I used to do, which is just sit down and drink and smoke weed, because they know that they're contributing to the downfall of society. It sounds so tinfoil hat, but it's like, it's not, it's fact. People just have to like open their bank app and look at the charges you're getting, and just you're not meant to receive them. You go to the branch and like say something about it, you know.
Stand
But
up for
here
yourself.
it's really common in Spain, at least, for people to just sit around and complain about it, and they'll go to coffees. There's a big coffee culture too, and everyone will complain and they won't do anything. And it really frustrates me. So I think it boils down to just following your gut and just taking that action, speak up about that.
You have this passion for justice. Am I right in saying that?
I just don't want to get fucked over, man. I just want to I'm one of those people who just wants to live my life normally, and I don't want to always have to like fight in order to just keep my head above water, which it doesn't matter what your income is. If you're getting taxed 50 to 70%, then you can be earning millions and still feel the same way I'm feeling, It's just the principle behind it. You'll look at what's coming into your account. It could be like 5 million, and then 70% is going to go away, and that's just going to bother you. Yeah. It has
totally yeah.
So my solution was, I'm going to earn more. I'm going to just earn more, and then as I earned more, I was getting taxed more, and it's like, okay, no, this is obviously isn't working.
Yeah, it brings you right back down to the same income you were before, and you're like, well, what was the point? I work more, putting in all this extra time and trading it for what? Nothing.
Yeah. Better off being a politician who gets rich off the people. Also not, because they're probably getting taxed on an emotional level, on a soul level. You can just see it in their faces. You can see how they change over the course of 4 years from entering that job looking healthy and then coming out looking like a depleted soul,
Yeah. Totally. Was that ever a fear for you, or was that like a driver for you? Okay, talk about that. Tell me about that.
So my marketing agency did really well during the coronavirus, because we were doing campaigns for the government, and that just made me literally ill. I couldn't sleep, and there's one of my pictures on my profile where I just look sick, and it was because we were doing, I don't know if I should even speak about this, man. I'm sorry if it like ruins the podcast or whatever, or
go for it.
It was like we were doing these fear-mongering campaigns where I was told to edit the videos in a way that instill fear in people when I was trying to give people hope. So I was making the videos positive and uplifting and trying to talk about being healthy, but it was like, no, you want people to be afraid. Like, this is too positive. What are you doing? And it's like, oh,
you get that kind of feedback. This is too positive. We need make it more fear-based.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to be like darker. It needs to be like, horror movie style. Put your mask on, be afraid, listen to follow the rules and whatever. And I was just like putting in stock footage of people breathing fresh air and things like that. And I was like, what was I thinking? Obviously,
It's like, you got it all wrong. Okay.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. What if that is the fear mongering is based on to get people to take action as opposed to necessarily to do fear? What if that is, what are your thoughts on that? It's like, okay, fear is much more driver for action than hope. Let's say that. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, me being part of the production team of this content, I would have believed that if we had actually followed the rules ourselves. But because I showed up to the sets
Oh.
in rubber gloves with a mask on. I actually did. I was afraid at the beginning, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna show up, and I was putting like, disinfectant gel on my rubber gloves and stuff like that. Like I was fully into it, and then
Hmm.
saw the people from our clients just like completely chilled as just normal, and I was like, wait a second, I
Oh,
remember there was a
interesting.
distinct moment where my rubber glove like broke, and I was like, oh my god, I need to like replace it, and government people were like, come on man, just like throw them in the trash, like what are you doing, forget about it, just relax. And I was like, wait, we're actually promoting
Oh.
something that we're not following here. And it's like, come on, you know what it is, you know how it is. And it's like, no, actually I don't know how it is. How is it? Because what are we doing, and there was this uncomfortable moment where I realized that I'm actually in disagreement with my entire team here, because everyone is in on this thing, and I felt really stupid, and
Oh
maybe I was
yeah.
stupid.
Oh, and coming from your background where like you would get into conspiracy theories, and you like go deep in that, and then all of a sudden you're having this, literally living out in what was that like? Given your perception, what was that experience like?
Like I said, I literally felt stupid. Even talking about it now, I realize that it is pretty dumb, because I should have realized what was going on. But it might be because my dad was sick, so a lot of people
Mm,
who talk the way I do didn't have anyone pass away, but I did. My dad
mm,
died from coronavirus,
mm,
so I was like afraid. Even although I should have seen through that too, I guess. I don't know. Like again, as we were saying at the beginning, I just don't know. I don't know
mm,
if he would have taken some medicine, would he have survived or not? Or did he
mm,
not pay attention with the hygiene? I don't know. Was
mm,
it the protocol? I just don't know. But the fact is that he's not there. And I was like afraid that that was going to happen to my mom too, or maybe to me or something. So I didn't really think in a conspiracy theory way. My conspiracy theories are always
mm.
more related to
Oh, wow.
things that are like in the past, not
Got you.
nothing really relevant to our time right now. But
Yeah.
now they absolutely are. Like, yeah, I was one of those people who just shifted completely through
So
this crisis.
what what caused that shift? Was there a moment? Was it that moment that you're talking about where you had the
Yeah,
gloves, you
yeah,
had the
absolutely.
mask? That was the moment where you're like,
Yeah,
"Wait, what the fuck?"
yeah, 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 man. I even have a picture of that. I have a picture
Oh
of
my
me like
god.
in like I think it's like a double mask with like rubber gloves on and stuff.
Oh my god. I'm gonna have you send that to me. We're gonna use that as some
Yeah, I
thumbnails
have
and
to.
shit.
I have to.
That's okay. Wild. Wow. So that was from an inside perspective of someone who was running the marketing campaigns. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I'm hearing this right. Um,
Yeah,
and then you came in, you're like, okay, shit, my dad just passed away from coronavirus, quote unquote.
yeah,
And you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna follow all these things. You're trying to bring hope in, and that's very much in alignment with you are. And they're like, no, that's not fear based. You're like, oh shit. And you could say, let's say best case scenario, you're like, cool, fear drives more action. Let's run with that for the hell of it. Let's go. Okay. So then you're putting on the gloves, you have the double mask, you're doing the whole thing. You show up, and then you look around and you realize all the people telling you to do this, none of them are following it. Your glove rips, and you're like, oh my God. And they're like, dude, you know what this is, right? Cool it.
yeah, yeah. Just
Fuck.
relax. They were even like smoking cigarettes and stuff. They're like, people weren't allowed to leave. This was in like full lockdown. We were
Yeah.
in here in Spain in full lockdown. People weren't allowed to leave their houses, and we were, as the production team and as the city hall employees and whatever. I mean, I'm a little bit afraid that I'm gonna get like, there's gonna be some kind of repercussion for me talking about this stuff, but whatever. We were just like meeting up and having coffee, man, in
Mm,
like places which are known to be friends of people who work in politicians and stuff, so they were allowed to stay open, and we were
mm,
allowed to roam the streets, and they would just like sit and have coffee with like no masks, no gloves, smoking, and it's like you're part of a different reality, like all these
yeah.
people who are on, sorry,
Oh, it's fine.
we're back.
Yeah.
All these people who are like in charge of us just live in a different bubble, and I'm not even talking about like super high level politicians, just like city hall employees. I can only imagine what, banking CEOs and those like Bilderberg people live like. They must have access to like a different kind of medicine even, they must know things that we don't know. I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're in full tinfoil hat mode, man.
I know. I was not expected to get into this, but I'm really glad. I am really intrigued. And like the entire premise of this show is I'm going to talk with interesting people about interesting shit. And I'm going to go wherever the edge of my knowledge is and say, okay, tell me more. Whenever. So this is so fascinating. This is so fascinating. But I know we are over time by a bit actually at this point.
Okay.
So I'm going to call it here. Thank you so much. If people want to find you, people want to start working with you, or talk more tinfoil hat shit here, where can they find you?
It's Let's Never Quit on Instagram.
Let's
and,
Never Quit on
YouTube,
Instagram.
TikTok as well. Let's Never Quit. Yeah.
Perfect. Man, I so appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on here.
This was really fun, man. Thank you. Thank you. It was really fun.